In a world where war never ends, one man carries the weight of a generation, survivor of the battlefield, bringing you hard truths and hot lead, reviews from the locker, and trips to the meat grinder. Now he's taking you behind enemy lines, not into combat, into truth, stories from 1st Recon Battalion, with no BS conversations. Marine veteran Brad Iceman Colbert, where legends tell it like it is. This is not just a podcast, it's a mission.
Delicious.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Colbert. Many of you know me from the Generation Kill series, first put down in print as a 3-part Rolling Stones article, later made into a full book by Mr. Evan Wright, and then further optioned by HBO, ending up as a 7-part miniseries, which I enjoyed. Many of you did as well, I've gathered. Alexander Skarsgård portrayed me in a 7-part miniseries portraying myself and my platoon's adventures and invading a small country, Middle East. Might have heard of it, Iraq, lovely place. Looking to buy property there if anyone wants to come in with me on it. Many of you may be asking, why now? Why, over 20 years later, would you embark on a podcast talking about things that were buried far away in the past? That is a great question. I was not able to, for quite some time, talk about a lot of the stuff, do this kind of outside activity due to my current work requirements, and I am no longer constrained by that. I thought it would be helpful to a lot of folks that followed the show, that were fans of the episodes, that liked the book, maybe found inspiration in some of the leadership philosophies, some of the experiences. They use those as the impetus to perhaps enlist in their own military adventures. Maybe they used it as the springboard to overcome adversity or take inspiration from some of its message. I've done a lot of speaking on mental health, both for veterans and anyone suffering from trauma. And I thought that this would be an appropriate time to look back and dive into some deeper questions surrounding 2003's invasion of Iraq or the 2001 occupation of Afghanistan, of which I was a part of as well. Along the way, my hope is to interview some experts and perhaps those that are forward-thinking, outside of the box, talking about subjects like mental health, trauma, overcoming trauma, where we are in the military today, where we may be going, what problems we may face, and what solutions would we apply to those problems. We're going to have some fun. Not everything is serious. There's going to be a lot of tongue-in-cheek because I don't take myself very seriously. I don't think you should take me seriously either. 20% of everything that comes out of my mouth is just completely made up. Or maybe it isn't. I don't know. We're going to be talking about whiskey, which is also one of my passions. We're going to be talking about firearms, which is another one of my passions. We might, for all you know, be drinking while we're shooting. Not going to show you that, but it's up for you to guess. If I hit my target, I was sober. If I miss, it's probably because I was drinking. That's my excuse anyways. Couldn't possibly be the fact that I'm not accurate 100% of the time. So, sit back. I hope everyone enjoys. If you have a comment, voice it. There's an email contact form on the webpage, or you can just put a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them, or one of my good teammates, upon my approval, will answer on my behalf. But I promise, it's still going to come from me. We do have merchandise available if you'd like to join the merch army. Stickers, patches, t-shirts, I was thinking about boxer shorts, but I don't know if I want all of you wearing something that has me on it. We'll have to think about that one. If you have a suggestion on something that you would like to hear about, if you have somebody in mind that you think would suit the topic, include it. We'll do our level best to petition them, hopefully interview them. We want to provide resources, pull the stigma back from mental health, remove the reticence from asking for help. We're going to be talking to doctors, therapists, clinicians, engineers. We're going to have some fun. So, again, sit back, relax, enjoy, pour some of your favorite spirit, and laugh with me. We better not get involved in this.
So you're talking about Tehran or Iran? Wow. We're getting involved in it. That's my guess.
Well,
With the Netanyahu thing.
it's final proxy we are.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, with all the rhetoric that's going on now.
It's just so bombastic. The things that he says, like threatening to assassinate the Ayatollah of Iran
On social media?
Yeah, on social media, it's just it's not something that is presidential, but moreover, it's recklessly inflammatory. Even if you think it in private, discuss it with your advisors, and even have a cabinet meeting about it. You don't put it out to the world in a social media post. I find it wildly inappropriate, as do many. But yeah, again, I'm still cheerleading for the team, but wow, the team captain kind of sucks right now.
Ain't it the truth? Yeah, what is your opinion of all, like, his approach?
Well, I mean, it's definitely, in some ways, you could say, refreshing, in the sense that the same old doesn't really work. I mean, you'd have to go back to Reagan to truly find a president that challenged the paradigm, right? He looked across the Iron Curtain and told them to take the wall down. He espoused America as this shining city on the hill, and it demonstrated the virtues of our culture and our country. So I will say, I applaud him for some of his candor and direct approach to problems, but I think he devolves into, petty name calling and vitriolic statements. And again, it's a lot of the stuff that he says is bombastic. I think it's for shock value. I think it's just to advance the plot. I don't truly feel that he believes it, but that's not what is impactful, whether I believe it or the man on the street believes it, is that people outside the borders of the country believe it. So you have to be very careful. I mean, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, as the adage goes. So when the president says something like, we are not calling for the assassination of the Ayatollah yet, like, you may find that's tongue-in-cheek, and that may have been a 03 in the morning tweet, but that's not how the rest of the world takes it. And when you assume the office of the presidency, you have to assume that burden of responsibility as well. And I don't think he does.
So we're talking about leadership and the issues surrounding leadership.
I think it's, yes, I think
Do you
that,
think he is a good leader?
well, that's an interesting question, because it would need, first we would need to agree on what the definition of a leader is. Because there's leaders and managers, and not to suggest that either one is better or that a manager is pejorative. But a leader recognizes the space to transform and has the ability to capitalize on it, in my opinion. Leadership, it's not just influencing people to do what you want to do. It's having a long-term vision and then having the awareness, both internal and external, to understand what's needed to obtain your vision. Have empathy for those that work with you to enable them to achieve their best, which vis-a-vis helps you achieve your vision. So leadership, it's a complex thing, and it's somewhat amorphous. If we can just stick on that subject before answering your question, I know I'm digressing, but is the manager at the McDonald's a leader of the people that show up to work, right? I mean, one would say arguably not. Working at a fast food restaurant is in many cases a transactional relationship. They show up, they perform a service in exchange for pay. Yes, there may be the opportunity for upward mobility, but it's limited. You're not going to find life fulfillment or some Zen peace after a shift at McDonald's. So I would argue that that person is a manager, and that time and place fulfills a very needed role. So let's take somebody like, well, popular or not, like Elon Musk. Is Elon Musk a leader? Yeah, I would say that he is. He had a extremely lofty goal to put people on Mars and has taken steps to achieve that goal. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of vision. It takes a lot of technical and tactical know-how to organize all these disparate disciplines into a cohesive and unified goal of, hey, let's put people on Mars. When everybody said private space exploration it's fantasy. So we look at Trump and the administration. I mean, what is his vision? What is his vision for the country? And I happen to agree with a lot of the tenets of conservatism and the Republican Party that is advancing conservatism, but I ask it again, what's his vision? What do you want for the country? You just want to do away with this policies or this particular department, and that's great, but that doesn't really codify like where do you want to steer the ship in a matter of speaking.
What do you think his vision is?
Well, and that's just it. I don't know. I think in many cases his vision is probably whatever makes him look good. I don't think, again, go back to Reagan. Like Reagan, by all accounts of everybody who has done any exposés on, was in awe of the office. The office of the presidency was so much bigger than he was. And it's not imposter syndrome. He just had incredible reverence for the office of the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, and this great democratic experiment. Whereas, in my opinion, Trump he feels the presidency is kind of beneath him, right? Like the presidency should be in awe of him, not the other way around. So I kind of go back and forth sometimes because there's certain things that he has brought forth and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I can get behind that. All presidents have tried to reduce the government in some form or fashion. Clinton fired, laid off, whatever word you want to use, 350,000 people during his administration. Nobody protested in the streets, right? Nobody had not a king day when Clinton did it. But there's better ways to do it, Like they laid off some 6,000 plus national park workers, and then a week later realized the national parks wouldn't be able to open because we don't have enough seasonal workers. So they hired everybody back, right? He let go, and I say he because I'm not pointing specifically at him, but those under his auspices let go all of the security people on some of our nuclear stockpiles. Day later, hired them back on because somebody realized, well, shit, we can't have our highly volatile nuclear stockpiles not be guarded. So it's that ready aim or ready fire aim that he has done since he was inaugurated that I'm frustrated by. And it shows a lack of leadership because yes, I agree with some of the things that are taking place, but the manner in which they're taking place, I certainly don't agree with. I think there's a better way to do it. There's a more efficient way to do it.
What are some of the things that you do agree with that is taking place?
Oh, I absolutely think that the government is too bloated. I think that in any system, there's going to be a percentage of fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's not with malice aforethought. It's not like a group of people were hired with the sole intentions of defrauding the government. I'm sure that they go to work with the best intentions, but the byproduct of so much bureaucracy is going to be a certain level of fraud and waste. I don't know how much money was spent on condoms in Gaza, and I don't really care. I'm sure there was at some point a logical and reasonable explanation for why that was done.
It's fine.
But it certainly doesn't look good optically to have that. And so that, even if it was 800 million, if it was 80 million, if it was 800,000, it doesn't matter. I think the question is like, okay, is that where we should be spending our money? Meh. And so I think that the government should be constricted in many ways. At the pace that he's doing it and with such ruthlessness, probably not. I mean, it's a hammer when it could probably use a scalpel, but I agree with it.
Yeah, I definitely think that the waste is a real problem. I do think, though, that the waste that they're cutting is relative, considering if you start to look at bailouts for corporations and you start to look at the amount of money that they spend in that department. I think it's a bit of a dog and pony show because of that. It's like it's for the people and how the people are perceiving things, and not how is it actually going to really save the money.
No, I don't disagree. I think a lot of it is for effect, but that doesn't underscore the need to have it done.
Agree.
But why rush in? You've got 4 years, so set up a phased approach that takes place over 18, 24 months that reduces redundancies, creates efficiency. And look, the government should be run like a business. We don't earn a profit. There's no ROI, but you should be running this like a corporation, not this endless deficit spending that has no end in sight. $30 trillion deficit? I don't understand how we can sustain that for a day, let alone a year, let alone 4 years, 8 years, 12. I mean, you've been to DC. You've seen the deficit clock, the budget clock, those numerals spin.
Well, and the big, beautiful bill is only going to increase that.
It is. Republicans used to be deficit hawks. I don't know what happened. I don't know where any of our deficit hawks went. I mean, there's a few, but you don't live your life that way. I mean, you have a finite amount of income and you spend based off that finite amount. You don't just say, well, I'm just going to write a check to cover the delta, even though there's no money in the bank. Well, the government does that. And except for a brief period during the Clinton administration, you have to go all the way back to Eisenhower. We haven't had a true budget balanced since Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. It's not sustainable. And in order to maintain the GDP, you have to have a certain level of population growth, which then requires more resources, which then requires more deficit spending. And it's just this snake eating the tail.
It is pretty fascinating because it definitely seems that everything has become everything is about headlines, and everything is about sales of, even if it's a concept or an object or whatever, for the consumer and how the consumer is consuming the information, which I think facilitates some of the immediacy of what's going on.
Sure. Yeah. And I also feel that it's generational too. The generation that you and I grew up in was less instant gratification based. Information was not at our fingertips. And so information was not as transient. What we've experienced, at least in this current generation, and probably a tip in the past as well, is the extinction of the expert. We used to go to the doctor who spent all of that time in medical school. And when the doctor tells you this is my diagnosis, you would be like, you're an expert. Clearly, you know what you're talking about, or a scientist, or insert name of person here. Now it's, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me grab my phone and jump on WebMD or whatever internet search browser you're using. And the death of the expert is a classic analogy of I feel a lot of it is societal based. We don't earn the information that we have available to us. So we don't have the same appreciation for it, right? When you and I were growing up, we didn't know the answer to something. The solution from our parents is typically go pull the encyclopedia and look it up. And it was a pain in the ass. But because
or go to the library,
Or go to the
get
library,
the Dewey
yeah.
Decimal System, hunt down the books.
That's right.
You know,
But in the act of doing all of that, when you found the answer, it was much more valuable. You know, something given has no value. And so in the modern age, when everything is aggregated and at our fingertips, we take it for granted the work that was required to achieve those results. And
I think the easy jump to is experience. I don't think experience is valued in the same way that it has been in the past. And you see it like, oh, I'll watch a YouTube video and I'll learn about that. That has value, but that is not necessarily experience, because experience happens over time. Duration equates experience. And that is something that people, I think in general, and we all fall victim to it. I do too now, because the information is so accessible. But you see generationally, I think, people that don't value experience at all.
But see, that speaks to your point that you made earlier, is it's consuming, and the consumer has changed. And a lot of what is being done in the political landscape is really just for general consumption. It's red meat, without any true impacts, because in many cases as a society, we're so shallow and our attention span is so short. If it can't be explained in 4 to 6 seconds, they're going to swipe left, and metaphorically speaking, of course. And so the state of politics and the state of government, I think it's pivoted to this media-friendly soundbite, to this superficial, to this extremely vitriolic, polarization that has probably existed in some form or fashion since the country was incepted, but golly, I don't think I ever heard of it being as bad as it is today.
Which I do think ties back to the technology and the accessibility of information and how algorithms work, and how they can galvanize people or otherwise. It's like the information that a lot of people are consuming is the information that they want to consume. And so they're just getting fed. We're just getting
an echo chamber.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct. And in addition to the extinction of the expert, we've lost our ability for critical thinking, which is something that I feel is so incredibly valuable, because of how much of what we consume media-wise is biased in one way or another, or completely fabricated. You lose the ability to critically think. Is that article genuine? Are the sources that article was based on true? Is it single source reporting? Is it multiple source reporting? Is it come from an authority, or is it come from somebody in their basement who just happens to have a blog? And no offense to basements. So the whole thing, I think, is a challenge to an entire generation that grew up with social media, grew up with cell phones, grew up with information being instantly accessible, and then the ability to influence them with wrong information or biased, fake news. That's dangerous, man. And I don't know where the end is.
Yeah, bias is a huge problem now, and it's not going to get any better, in my opinion, just because of the way technology and how come data has become so valuable. I mean, data is the currency now for our world, and that is where the value lies. And so, the more people have a bias exists everywhere. I mean, we all have biases, and
Yes.
and those biases get exploited within the system, and that has value within the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I think ultimately is the inherent problem with where technology is going. If you look at artificial intelligence and all of it. It's just like any technology, you know, it's a tool and it has a tremendous amount of value for a lot of things. But it, oftentimes you don't use a hammer to glaze a window, you know, like, and so you end up with this situation where you've got all of this insane technology. I mean, they're saying now that, you know, within the next 3 to 5 years, that everybody will have access to the wealth and knowledge of the combined population of the world in their hand. Look at what we're doing now with where we are with all of the technologies and all of the things. And I do think that, like, you know, we have to like step back, because all of these tools and all of these things that we're utilizing that are creating the divisions, that are creating all of the negativity along with a ton of positivity. But if you look at the state of affairs socially in this country, you know, where you do have this conflict basically between two parties, you know, it's us and them, you know, that has been facilitated by all of that, as we've discussed. Where does the responsibility lie within the individual?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though, because technology has outstripped our maturity to use it, our wisdom to use it.
Everything's evolving except for us,
right? So societally, we're not slowly integrating a new thing. I mean, when the car came along and replaced the horse-drawn buggy, you know, there was a 20-year overlap in many cases, depending on where you were in the country. Society had time to understand the rules of the road. A new AI model seems to come out every couple of months, and I think the pace is getting even faster. Yeah, there's no backstop. There's no balance. But I want to circle back to something that you had asked about the administration, which is, you know, what policies do I feel that are done well? So I definitely feel that we can trim and make the government more efficient. Are we going about it the right way? No, not the way I would do it. No one asked. And that's okay. I do have a problem with how porous the borders are. And a completely separate topic is, you know, is immigration required? Is immigration needed? Do we need an influx of workers into the United States? And that is an entirely separate discussion. I'm simply saying that every country in the world has a fence, and every country in the world reacts the same way when someone jumps the fence, which is, yeah, you're trespassing. So I agree there should be consequences, and the border is porous, and it should be tightened down. So I'm all for that. I also think that our strategic partners should support the United States the same way the United States supports them. So I do want it to be fair and equitable across the board. Specifically, yeah, NATO needs to pitch in and their fair share of the expense to run the alliance. So domestically, I don't really hear a lot on the domestic front other than immigration as to, you know, what the plans are for the country. And I think that everyone prior to the election all said it was, well, it's Project 2025 is his vision. Oh, no, that's not true. I just don't know what it is.
I think that's privatization. I mean, I think privatization is, I think, the ultimate goal. If you start to look at the privatization of, you know, the prison system, you start to look at the privatization of, you know, the medical industry, you start to look at the privatization. I mean, the list goes on and on of what they're trying to, I mean, he wants to privatize the postal department. He wants to privatize, you know, it's like.
That's true. I did. Well, the postal department is quasi privatized already, because they're the only branch of the government that generates revenue to fund themselves.
Exactly.
But, you know, 70% of the world relies on the United States postal system. The world, not just the United States. So doing away with the U.S. postal system would be a grave mistake. Privatization, possibly. I mean, privatization is not the answer to everything, but it could definitely help with the pharmaceutical price of medicine, a topic that you are intimately familiar with far more than I am. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting 4 years. It doesn't help the fact that, on the world stage, so much is taking place between, Russia and Ukraine, between Israel and Gaza, between now Israel and Iran.
What is your opinion on the Iran situation?
Well, first off, I think that to say that they were days or even months away from a weapon is a gross simplification.
I mean, that's the perfect segue because of what you've experienced with the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
And Iraq.
I think that there was idle chit chat, though it may have been. I mean, there was talk at the end of the 2003 invasion that we would just head straight into Iran and knock out two birds with one stone. I mean, the force was already deployed. Now, we would have gotten our noses bloodied a lot worse than the opposition in Iraq, but I mean, ultimately we would have been victorious. But that wasn't the end state, and I definitely think that those in charge probably made the right decision. But now,
are you getting deja vu?
No, I not necessarily deja vu. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And I know that, again, this is also a completely separate discussion, but the impetus for going to Iraq was the World Trade Center, at least ostensibly, right? Weapons of mass destruction, both of which turned out to be not the case. Okay. I spent a bit of time on the ground in Iraq, as you well know. And by all accounts, Saddam was a son of a bitch and did need to go. Now, we made a mess of it. Complete mess, and hindsight's always 20/20. But I don't see the same comparison. With the invasion of Iraq, there was at least a thought of a credible existential threat. Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. He's a dictator. He's going to use them against us. We're going to do a preemptive strike. Turned out not to be the case. I would say that the intelligence community has it on pretty good authority, and I am not speaking on behalf of any intelligence agency. I'm simply using open source to form an opinion. So let me say that. I don't think Iran was anywhere close to getting a weapon. It's much more than enriched uranium-235. That is the first step. You need advanced machining. You need to machine that uranium-235 into a perfect sphere. You need beryllium, you need a trigger, you need a payload. I mean, there's like 10 different things that you need. I don't think that they were anywhere near close. 5 years away? Sure. Months away? I disagree.
Well, that's been a topic of conversation in politics as long as I can remember when I actually started paying attention. I mean, it's been 20, 30 years that they've been talking about that.
Right. Yeah.
That they were close to having it.
But, and again, I don't know what it's like to be an Israeli, but they have a cultural history of being sucker punched, and they aren't going to allow it to take place. If they feel that their sovereignty is threatened and they want to do a preemptive strike, and it's on them. It's their soldiers. It's their country. It's their blood and treasure. I just don't want to get sucked in by proxy.
Yeah, by association. Well, I mean, that's already happened.
Well, it's happened because we align ourselves with Israel. We give support to Israel financially, morally, socially, politically,
militarily.
Absolutely across the board. But, I mean, I will give the administration credit. They have gone out of their way to say, as has other Western countries, and if we're not a part of this.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. I mean, Iran is problematic for sure, but I mean, to go to war in the Middle East again seems really ridiculous.
I don't think there's going to be a full-scale ground invasion because I don't think you need to. I mean, you eliminated their proxies. You have Hezbollah is gone, or almost gone. Gaza is come on. There's not much left in Gaza. The Houthis are gone. If Iran was a threat, it was through their proxies, and Israel has surgically dismantled the big three. And they really don't have the ability to project force. They're certainly not going to project anything that the U.S. would find as a serious risk. we have bases in that region, but we also have defenses that are able to mitigate those. They're not going to, it's not going to be Red Dawn where they're paratrooping into the Rocky Mountains. So I think Iran personally was in a good space. What I mean is they were on the ropes. I don't feel that they were a threat. I think that Israel's probably using the fear of a nuclear weapon as justification for strikes. And hey, man, maybe they know something I don't. I am sure that they feel that that is the case. As long as it doesn't suck us in, do whatever you want.
Yeah, the Red Dawn thing. I mean, as a kid, I was like, that movie was just so amazing.
Still to this day, it's
I haven't seen it in, since I was a kid, but that movie was very heavily influenced. And I do think it possibly influenced a massive part of the population, because just look at gun ownership. Because that's a real plausible situation.
Yeah. I couldn't stand the remake. The remake was a piece of shit.
I didn't even know they remade it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. Yeah, they remade it a couple of years ago, and they changed the antagonist to who'd they do? The Cuba?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm pretty sure it was Cuba. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's where the problem was.
Helmsworth in it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. They made a more politically correct version of what was a classic 80s film, and you just leave it alone.
It can't be Cuba. It can't be Cuba.
I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not arguing that you're wrong.
I might be mixing it up.
On your assessment.
I kind of blocked that film out because it's such an absolute
Ace, was it Cuba? Come up with it.
You gotta look it up, man. Who the antagonists were in that movie? They need to just stop playing with my childhood. There was all these great. It's only a matter of time before they redo E.T.
Yeah,
and the Last Starfighter and the Great and Explorers and all these, gosh, classic 80s films.
Yeah,
North Korea. North Korea. Yeah, the first one was Cuba and Russia. North Korea.
Yeah, North Korea. I mean, still a little bit of a. I mean,
it's a reach.
Yeah, it is still a reach.
2012. That was the time where it was like Kim Jong-un was about to, explode the world, constantly.
Fast.
In the mainstream media, I think.
Yeah,
it's true.
And you're not going to worry about any ruffled feathers by painting them as the bad guy instead of, Putin or Castro.
Yeah, no one cares.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un.
Imagine that. Hollywood trying to be safe.
They are. And they do. But yeah.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.